Good morning, everybody. We've got some stuff to talk about on the Epstein files front. We've got stuff to talk about what's going on in Minneapolis. We got stuff to talk about what's going on in Russia. We got stuff that ties to Venezuela. We've got stuff to, oh, hell, let's just get into it. We got a lot to talk about today. Good morning. And while it wasn't part of the show, I did see one of the comments that just popped through, and this is as much your show as it is mine. It was about Michael Cohen. Let me just tell you where I'm at. You know, I've worked with Midas in the past, and I will work with Midas in the future. One of the things that kind of, sent me on my own way, you should say, is, I didn't separate from Midas. I love those guys. They are great guys. I know them personally. They are great guys. They really are. One of the things that made me step back a little bit was Michael Cohen. And he wasn't the only one. People that used to be in Trump's orbit that were being embraced over there. And I knew that wasn't going to end well. And every one of them, it hasn't. It hasn't. Because leopards don't tend to change their stripes. And what's going on with Michael Cohen, it's not a reflection on Midas. Those guys are just, I think they were just a little too trusting there. I really do. But I was glad to see them step up. I was glad to see them show Michael Cohen the door. And if you don't know what's going on there, Michael Cohen is trying to get back into Trump's good graces. He is. He's trying to get himself a pardon, which, I'll be honest with you, was a bit confusing at first because he'd already served his time. He was already doing a different thing. Why the hell is he sucking up to Trump for a pardon? If you hadn't heard, he's claiming that, he didn't mean what he said about Trump, that bad old Letitia James and the prosecutors, they just made him say the stuff he said. They just told him to say it, which is bullshit. It is complete and utter bullshit. Epstein. That's why he's looking for a pardon. These documents are going to come out. It's going to take a while, but everybody's looking at the midterms and they know Democrats are going to take control of Congress. The release of the Epstein files is going to go into high gear. The redactions aren't going to be allowed to stand. And everybody that, Michael Cohen was Trump's fixer for a very long time. He was very close to Donald Trump. And he has made statements in the past that, Epstein, who's Epstein? I don't know Epstein, which does not pass the smell test. So yeah, we're going to have to wait as more of this comes out. But kudos to the guys over at Midas for cutting ties with Cohen. And that's going to spur me to actually work with Midas more. It is. I'll be honest with you. I didn't want my name associated with, and he wasn't the only one, and they've all ended up being disasters. So yeah, now that he's out of the way, I am much more likely you'll start seeing more of my videos coming out with Midas. I'll be honest with you, that was my apprehension. I didn't want to be tied with that. I just didn't want to be tied with that. I didn't. So yeah, that's that. That's all the laundry that I have so far. on that. Rock and Ron, take a hike, Jake Lang. We're going to talk about that later on in the show. Thanks for supporting the show, man. Ollie, thanks for gifting the membership. Thanks for all the new memberships that have already bumped in. And yeah, Jordan B. Miller, I have never been a fan of Michael Cohen. I just never have. I don't trust it. Denman was another one that I didn't trust. And look what happened with her. She just blew up in Midas's face also. I just don't trust people that have the character to be in Trump's orbit. I don't. But anyways, moving on. Pam Bondi has moved to block the release of the Epstein files. I am telling you, the redactions were just the beginning. They have actually taken steps to actually hinder the release of the files. They're claiming to be actually doing it as the law requires, even though they're not meeting the deadlines and they're not doing what the law requires. On one side of their mouth, they're saying, oh yeah, we're going to release them. And on the other side of the mouth, no. The arguments that are being made are something. Let's just cover that real quick. George Allen, thanks for being here. Let's talk about what just happened there. They just filed a motion. With Judge Paul Engelmeyer to block a request for a special master to be applied. See, a special master would just take control of the situation and documents would start to flow. Pam Bondi said, no, we can't do that. But there was something in the release, two things actually in the release. One, they arrogantly, and I think this is going to just bite them in the ass, told Judge Engelmeyer that he had fuck all to do with this, and none of the courts could make them release the files, period. That was one of the things that came out. But this was something else. This caught my attention. This is one of the paragraphs in that article. If you go to read it, I want you to pay special attention to this paragraph because it really, really, really just caught my attention. It did. Jane in 1970, bold move being a DOJ saying it doesn't need to follow the law. I know, right? I know. Bold move, Cotton. Let's see how that works out for you. In a 6-page letter filing on Friday to U.S. District Court Judge Paul Engelmeyer on Friday, I didn't write this. So, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche argued that Canna, talking about Congressman Ro Canna, and Thomas Massey, Congressman Massey, are not parties to U.S. v. Ghislaine Maxwell case involving Epstein and should not be allowed to file friend of the court requests in this matter. And what really caught my attention about this is they're specifically talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. And what this tells me is that Democrats are going after those particular court records that are going to show exactly how Trump has been protecting Maxwell, how she ended up down here at a Club Fed in Texas to serve out her sentence, how she ended up, this is the stuff that they really, really, really fear coming out. This is the stuff that even Cletus gets. Wait a minute. You helped out Ghislaine Maxwell? Those are narratives that, and again, I say it all the time, narratives are everything. These are the kind of narratives that keep them up at night. These are the kind of narratives that send chills down Pam Bondi's spine, because she knows when Trump goes, she goes. She knows her protection is gone. There's no one else in the Republican community that wants to take care of Pam Bondi. No one. This is it. This is her last ride. And her and Todd Blanche are in full freakout mode over them going after the Ghislaine Maxwell documents. That, I mean, it's all bad. Don't get me wrong. It's all bad. And we're going to find out some really nasty shit. We are. But they're aware. They are keenly aware that Democrats will take power after the midterms and that more of these documents will come out. But these documents in particular, they're doing everything they can to try to keep them under seal, to try to keep them from being released, to try to keep the American people from knowing just how much they participated in protecting Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, we're talking about the release of documents. We're just talking about the prosecutions, how much they interfered with this is something that will hinder the GOP for decades. Then you're going to add it on top of a lot of things that are going on around the world and around the country. We're going to talk about that. Green energy is going to kind of be a theme that keeps coming back. It wasn't an intended theme of the show, but it's going to keep coming back to some of the things we're going to talk about later on that are going on with, many of with some of our trading partners and stuff. I don't want to give it away too early. So just stick with me. Chandra Patton says, oh, good grief. What is these bimbos surrounding the ogre? I hear you. But that really caught my attention, how focused they are in Ghislaine Maxwell. This is happening. Talking about just seams coming loose all over the world. Protests have started in Copenhagen, in Greenland. People are taken to the streets. They are not having this Greenland shit. They are not. They are not having this Greenland shit. We're going to talk about the tariffs, but that's part of another story. Be a little bit farther on in the show. But yeah, Trump just blew up our trade deal with the EU. He did. He just, the trade deal that they had come up with, that which is already bad, Trump just blew it, just destroyed it over Greenland. This is nuts. I mean, nuts. We're not going to get Greenland. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And it is this talk, it's costing us relationships in ways that, and I don't know what's going on with the American media. I really don't. I don't know why they're not talking about the reactions to this. I don't get it. I mean, things like this. Most Americans aren't aware that Scotland has its own parliament. They think Scotland is part of the UK and government. They don't realize that the Scottish Parliament has a good deal of its own autonomy to run things, and they don't understand that relationship. So they don't know what this means and that this can actually happen. But yeah, John Sweeney is running a minority government in Scotland. He needs his coalition to continue to govern. And Gillian Mackey, who heads the Greens, is threatening to blow up their coalition if Sweeney doesn't block the use of basically any infrastructure that the United States might use to invade Greenland. I mean, she took to the floor of the Scottish Parliament. This is not something that's just talk. I mean, she's already brought this to the floor. She's put Sweeney on notice. This is it. This is it. If you don't move to block the United States and their ability to move troops through the UK, our portion that we control, we're done. We're done. Your coalition's over. I mean, this is having ramifications all over the world, all over the world. Mike Daly, the Dem, Kana and Massey don't have standing to sue over a law they wrote to get the documents. Can't wait to hear that logic. Yeah. I mean, this is really something, the way this is breaking down. It really is. I mean, there's a lot of legal minutia in there that is just really kind of telling the tale of what they're really scared of. Right now, they are begging to get right-wing lawyers. They're trying to hire lawyers to sift through this. You know, they brought in over 1,000 FBI agents to redact Trump's name. And now that that's falling apart, they are desperately trying to hire right-wing lawyers to review all of this, to come up with legal justifications to fight the release of each section of documents. It's really something to watch this happen. Marcia Klepper, I'm fashionably late as usual. Thanks for being here, Marcia. I'm glad you're always here. I really am. But yeah, that's something again. Why isn't the corporate media talking about the DOJ trying to hire a legion of right-wing lawyers so they can argue out each section of the Epstein documents and try to prevent their release? Why? Why aren't you telling people this? Chandra Patton, fortunately, Dems are going to have to spend the first term repairing relationships with NATO partners. Oh my God, it's going to take forever. This is part of where the show is going. This is actually going to take. You'll get it. You'll get it. You'll get it by the end of the show. You'll get it. American media has been in profit-making mode for a long time now, which means that bringing you the actual news is secondary unless it makes them a lot. Makes them a lot. You know, I honestly don't. I get that. I agree with you there. I do. But good Lord, it's like they're willingly turning into state-run media. It's like they're seeing the collapse of the Republican Party, and they're just like trying to, Hercules it up, and keep it from happening themselves. It's really troubling to watch. Dave Barone, thank you for being here. Appreciate you for supporting the show. I really do. I appreciate you supporting the show. Cannot do it without you. Cannot. Marcia, thanks for gifting memberships. Keep being inclusive. I was really worried about that when we went to memberships. I didn't want it to feel like gatekeeping. I did not see this coming. Y'all people have been so generous about gifting the memberships. That's incredible. It is incredible. Way to keep everybody in the community together. Rich Lawton, thank you. Go Texans and Rams. I got to confess, I haven't been following football this year. I just haven't. It just felt like these bigoted old owners were just making everything about them and their views. And if they want to do that, keep it. Keep it. I don't need your shit. I've been just fine not watching football this year. Jeremy Breeden, they'll probably hire the sick bastard Dushewitz, who is all over the files to begin with. I would not surprise me. Would not surprise me. New West Bill, thanks for always being here to support the show. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, it's just one thing after another that keeps coming out that's just so ugly. And again, the media just keeps failing us. This is The Guardian is British media. I rely on them heavily. I do. Renee Good had a pulse. We all saw the video of the Good Samaritan doctor that was trying to help and was kept away by ICE. And they're like, oh, we got our own medics. No, that's not what the reports show. That's not what the reports show. One bullet entered through her arm and into her chest. Second bullet went directly into her chest. Third bullet went into her head. And she was alive. She was alive. When the EMTs finally arrived on scene, she still had a pulse. They pulled her out of the car, which, by the way, proves that ICE lied. And I want to see the legal repercussions coming from that, because ICE said, "Oh, we performed CPR and took measures immediately." And no, you didn't. The EMTs pulled her out of the car. How the fuck do you do CPR on somebody sitting in a car seat? You don't. You don't. The EMTs pulled her out of the car, put her in an ambulance, drove her a block away, and went to work on her. And they began to perform CPR on her because she still had a pulse. After they took her out of the car, after they put her in the ambulance, after they drove her a block away, she still had a pulse. And this incident report also, and this is another one, and I want y'all to explain this to me. We're a community here. I don't claim to know everything. You are smart people. You had CBS and ABC both run that bullshit story that Ross had injuries. They said internal, every doctor that saw this was screaming, "This is not a thing. This is not a term. Internal bleeding of the abdomen is not a medical term." They ran that story unconfirmed. The only source was an anonymous source out of the administration. And then they've done nothing with it, even though this report confirms no, he didn't. He didn't go to the hospital. Jonathan Ross went straight to the federal building. And from the federal building, he went to his home and packed his shit. He didn't go to the hospital. He didn't have injuries. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. And yet, CBS and ABC were more than happy to run that story, but then haven't followed up, even though the reports completely contradict it. And that goes back to your comment about the profit motive. Wouldn't that be a big story? Wouldn't the American people eat that up? Ooh, Homeland Security caught in a lie. Those are big stories, man. Those if they're really profit margin driven, that's a big story. Ben Johnson, Ross planned to kill by walking in front of the Good's car to justify it. He was furious with her from a morning of protesting. Yep. McBasters, thanks for gifting memberships. Yep. But I mean, that's where I'm like, when you say it's profit, I agree with you. I do. But there's more to it than that. I mean, wouldn't that be just a massive story that someone intentionally released, someone in the Trump regime intentionally released false information, and they've been caught. They've been caught in a lie. That's big. That's money making news right there. But no, Barry Wise over at CBS is just going to leave the false story out there. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Which leads to the question, why? Why? Jesper Jensen, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Our Danish audience, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for becoming a member. I really appreciate it. Welcome. Welcome. Connie, thanks for short. Thank you, Connie Liddon. Thank you for supporting the show. No, really, folks. I just, there's way more to it than just their tabloid news now, and they're just selling whatever puts eyes on the screen, because that again, that's just proof. That would be a huge story. It would. But while this is all going on, we've got this happening, which is just freaking hilarious. Just hilarious. Yeah. Jake Lang is gross. He's one of those people you've never heard of. You don't know. He's a self-proclaimed racist. He's Jewish. He's a self-proclaimed racist. Calls himself that. He's one of these people that are over there in the right wing that you've never heard of. And there are so many of them that your kids are being exposed to. He's J6er. He was there on January 6th. He was an insurrectionist that was pardoned. I'm beginning to think that that's it, that we've got nothing but state-run media. I believe that's what we're beginning to run into. But this happened. He thought it'd be a good idea to go up to Minneapolis. They've just got no Jordan Miller. Thanks. You had Nick Glazer told the truth about CBS. Yeah. There's a lot of articles that are talking about this. And I honestly, I don't know where that ends up with the media. I don't. But yeah, Jake Lang thought it would be a good idea to go up and counter protest. He thought it'd be a good idea to go get in the middle of all these liberals that he's deluded himself about, and brought 10 of his buddies with him. Thought they were going to be tough. Thought they were going to go out there and talk shit. And stupidly walked into a crowd of about 3,000 people that are pissed. This isn't a joke. This is happening in their city. This isn't something that, they think it's funny that some Instagram jerk off, right-wing slob that, like I said, calls himself a racist, wasn't a joke to them. And he found out the hard way. This is something, man. This is really something.
Hey, go, bro, go. Just go. Just go. Let him go, y'all.
That is a person of color saving this guy's life. Saving this guy's life. They beat the tar out of him. He claims that he was stabbed with a flagpole, which I kind of think is bullshit, because that was one of the things they did on January 6th, was bring flagpoles and then sharpen the finials on the top of them and made spears out of them. I kind of think where that comes from. And I don't see him with a stab wound here, but they did beat the snot out of him. I would just want you to notice that this is a person of color right here saving his life.
Hey, go, bro, go. Just go. Just go. Let him go, y'all.
Yeah, people have no sense of humor about this. Don't do this, dumbasses. Don't. Exhorter went up there. It's not ending well. People are very angry about this. This is not a joke. This isn't a joke. They really jumped the shark with this. They really did. This is not turning out like they'd hoped it would turn out. Cassie Lake, tip for the coffee jar. Our California from our California ranch. Glad to see you here. California in the house. Sad to see our Minnesota neighbors under siege. I'm telling you, this did not end like they think it thought it would. This is not providing all the footage of liberals getting the shit beat out of themselves and something. No, you're seeing people of color saving the lives of bigots, is what you're seeing. Jana, 1971, Jake Lang ran over the sensibilities of Minnesotans and refused to comply with their orders for him to leave. The mob suffered internal bleeding and everything. I love you people. I love you people. That is so good. That is so good. Pabs 8, thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for being here. Yeah, they have really miscalculated. This did not go like they thought it was going to go. And there's a little bit more to this. See, it's kind of funny. It's just, you couldn't make this up if you tried. Jake Lang, his money and his support and what he came up in is well, his family are shit pumpers. This is what they do. And before you think I'm picking on them by like dragging his dad's business into this, this is Ned Lang, Jake's daddy, where Jake gets his money. Why Jake can go fly from New York to Minnesota to try to put himself in the middle of all this and go be a J6er. And so, because he's a spoiled brat. His daddy is a shit pumper. That's what they do. That's what his business is. And before you think I'm picking on him, and before you're thinking, why are you involved in the family? Why are you mentioning that? I mean, that's what Ned wants. That's what Ned wants. See, Ned puts this on his trucks. My son is a J6 patriot, and I am damn proud of him. J6truth.org. Yeah, Daddy advertises this. So no, I'm not picking on him, showing that Daddy funds this and he's cool with it. He's cool with it. And I have no problem going and showing you exactly where their business is. In Narrowsburg, New York. I don't. Oh, wait a minute. What is that? Lang EnviroVentures, and what is this? What is this field right here on their farm? I mean, what is that? Is that porta potty stacked up? What is that right there? They're in the porta potty business. No, it's not. It's not. I wonder how Nick Lang's audience would feel if they knew that Nick Lang's farm, that looks like a solar project. That's not personal. That looks like, well, what is that? What is that? Oh, the self-professed right-winger that hates green energy and loves Trump also happens to be the beneficiary of federal money that supports the largest solar project in the region. I wonder if Jake Lang's followers are aware where his money comes from. I wonder if all those kids that follow him on Instagram and get their daily dose of bigotry and hating the liberals and their global warming and their clean energy and their green energy programs and all that. I wonder if they're aware of the solar farm on Jake Lang's family farm and the government subsidies that they get from it. I don't know. Seems a little hypocritical to me. What about you? Katie Mullins, I love your knowledge and perspectives. I also love that you are not interrupted with advertisements or sponsor reads. I am listening while grocery shopping. Yeah, I haven't done that. I haven't. I was hesitant to do the memberships, and I'm really hesitant to do YouTube keeps contacting me and saying, hey, you could partner with sponsors and make a lot more money. Yeah, I don't want to sit here and read ads. I just don't. I just don't. But yeah, this is not working out how they'd hoped. It's just really not. But we've got more going on than just this local idiocy, the local bigotry that's a distraction from the Epstein files. We do. We've got more going on in the world. Right now, you've got Russia. The numbers are in for the last year in Russia and their economy. And looks like the inflation's tapered off a little bit in Russia, but they are still screwed. They are. Russia's central bank has said they're going to have to keep their interest rates high. They just are. The cost of capital is going to stay very high in Russia. They're literally having to strangle their economy for multiple reasons. Right now, if you had to guess what the interest rates are in Russia, let's say, what do you think credit card rates are in Russia? Now, the central bank has interest rates at about 16%. Compare that with ours that are about 4%, a little over 4%. Theirs are at 16 right now. What do you think that calculates out to in credit card rates? Because, credit card rates are significantly higher than the prime lending rate. You people aren't going to believe this. This is how badly they're choking their own economy to try to keep the inflation under control. This is craziness. This is just craziness. VTB, 59.9% for their bank card. Alpha Bank's card, 58.99%. Gazprom Bank, 54.9%. Eurosib, 99.9% on their credit card. And you thought we had it bad, folks. Stephen, thanks for supporting it. Thanks for supporting the business. You think we have it bad? That's what happens when you don't get inflation under control. That's what you have to do to your own economy to keep inflation under control. And I will tell you, you've got these people out there that are selling the dream. Again, this is the Guardian. Philip Inman, interesting article, really interesting article. And the premise of this article is Russia's economy is in bad shape. It is, but it's not going to tank completely, because the only thing that could kill it completely and cause a complete collapse is if oil prices collapse. Okay. And this is one of the key takeaways here from that article. Russia can and should be hurt financially by further sanctions, but European leaders and Ukraine's valuable allies in the U.S. Congress, who have done so much to prevent Trump from siding wholeheartedly with his kindred spirit, Putin, should not delude themselves into thinking that the Russian economy is on the brink of collapse. While economic growth has slowed to a near standstill, the broader strategy resembles a medically induced coma, which you're seeing with those interest rates, those credit card rates, designed to insulate the patient from unwanted unwanted interference. What the argument is that Putin has done such an amazing job of selling to his people that the war in Ukraine isn't a war on their old neighbor, their neighbor, their old ally. That's not who we're fighting. We're fighting the West. We're fighting the West in Ukraine. And that the people believe it, and they're just going to be cool with it and not care that their credit cards are at 60+%, 60 to over 100%. They're not going to care. And the only thing that could actually, cause it all to crash is collapsing oil prices. And this is where we get to the sheer stupidity of the Trump regime, and where they just have no clue whether to scratch their watch or wind their ass. They have no idea which way to go here. Renee Scott, I don't watch state-owned news channels anymore. I rely on Midas Touch for accurate information. Texas Paul, my favorite, for education of events. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm trying really hard. This is going in two different directions, folks, and it's just mind-blowing to watch happen. It is just mind-blowing. This is what's going on. We've talked about this. This is what's going on with crude. And I told you in a previous show, MAGA, you can kiss your low gas prices goodbye. You can, because our government is actively trying to raise oil prices right now. And I've got receipts. Wayne, thanks for being here, brother. Thank you. Now, what they're trying to peddle is, and before we get into this, what the Trump regime is trying to sell is we had to liberate Venezuela, and we're going to just take and modernize their oil industry, and that's going to bring you cheap gas. That's what they're selling their base. It's what they're selling their base. But it's not what they're doing. It's not what they're doing. It's just not. See, this, just as a reference, these are oil prices. This is West Texas Intermediate crude over the last year. Why? The economy, stupid. It's the economy, stupid. That's West Texas Intermediate crude. This is Brent crude. This is what you see most setting, there are different baskets. There are different groups when they buy and sell commodities from different regions. We've talked about the costs, the floors, and we've done that in previous shows. This is Brent crude. This is what you see mainly in coming out of the North Sea. This is what it's done over the last year. It's not doing that great, folks. It's just not. And this is Western Canadian Select. This is the heavy stuff that Canada sells to us, where we need, we talked about the blends and how we need, some refineries are geared for the heavy crude and some are, we've talked about all those differences before. This is the Western Canadian Select. What it's done over the last year. So the narrative they're pushing is they moved into Venezuela to free up that oil, which is going to drive oil prices down even farther. But every expert has told them that's the death of Russia. That's it. Russia dies if you do that. Well, you notice Trump doesn't want to talk about Venezuela anymore. He wants to talk about Greenland. He doesn't want to talk about Venezuela anymore. He wants to talk about Greenland. Jordan B. Miller, any bets on when Pudding for Brains Trump will say inflation is a hoax? He already has. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. He doesn't want to talk about Venezuela anymore because they're doing this. They're actively trying to keep oil prices up. And you're paying for it. You're paying for it. Republicans in Congress are attempting to buy $1 billion worth of Venezuelan oil to put in our strategic petroleum reserve, is what they're trying to sell everybody. You can't do that. You can't do that. We've talked about the quality of oil that comes out of Venezuela. Folks, our strategic petroleum reserve is stored in old salt caverns. That's where we pump it into. Old salt mines and salt caverns. If you pump the highly acidic shit oil that comes out of Venezuela into our strategic petroleum reserve, it will eat through the walls of those salt domes. It just will. They literally cannot do this. Yet they're passing legislation to do this. Why? They're going to tie up $1 billion worth of oil contracts. That's what they're going to do. They're going to take $1 billion worth of your capital, pump it into Venezuelan oil contracts to puff up prices. They have no intentions of keeping that oil. They can't. They just can't. The entire world, every expert in Washington, everyone that controls the strategic reserves has told them that oil ain't coming in here. It's not. You cannot pump that oil in here. So why are they doing it? It ties up the oil. Just like I told you, right now there are tankers, old reprobate oil tankers, being used as storage facilities outside every damn port that are just full to the brim. They're sitting so low in the damn water because they're just full to the brim with oil that's not being offloaded. It's just being stored in these old reprobate tankers to try to keep oil prices up. Russia went on an oil tanker buying spree last year. Half to create their shadow fleet. Half of them are gone. Where are they? Exactly what I just told you. They're full of oil sitting outside ports because any of that oil is not considered in the system. They take it out of the ground and that oil is accounted for. When you deliver the oil, that oil is accounted for. In between, it's no man's land. It's like it doesn't exist anymore. No one keeps track of it. So when I say we're drowning in oil, we are drowning. Half of Russia's ghost fleet is out of service, anchored in ports full of oil. They are desperately trying to keep oil prices up. And our Congress, our Republicans in Congress, are trying to help them do it. You're not hearing anything out of Trump anymore about, oh, let's get that Venezuela oil flowing. No, it's all Greenland all the time. Meanwhile, Republicans are doing things like this to try to save Putin's ass because they are literally it is the only thing. Oil prices are the only thing. If you see West Texas Intermediate crude hit the 40s, Russia collapses. Russia collapses. Lourdes Rosario, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. Carl Rossi, what happens to the money placed in Qatar from Venezuelan oil? That is something else. That's going to have to go through a lawsuit. It is. It's going to have to go through a lawsuit. Congress is going to have to reclaim that money. There's no legal justification for Trump to take. What he's talking about is they're seizing oil from Venezuela. They're seizing funds. They're taking the funds from the sale of oil to Venezuela, and they're just pumping it into an offshore bank account in Qatar. There's no legal avenue for that. That's just illegal. You can't do that. Congress, that money has to go back into the Treasury and be reallocated by Congress. That will never survive a court challenge, ever. That's just the way our system works. But they're going to try. They're trying because they are desperately, and this is why I say they don't know whether to scratch their watch or wind their ass. They don't because this is just happening. Remember, what's causing this glut of oil? It's not production. It's not. We've talked about this on previous shows. West Texas is a matured field. That means every day those fields out in West Texas produce less oil. Every single day. Our largest provider of light sweet crude, of light crude out of West Texas, every single day it produces less and less oil. This glut of oil is 100% wholly created because during the Biden administration, to get inflation under control, because we saw massive spikes in inflation here, they did what you have to do. They choked the economy. They did it on purpose to get those prices under control. And it worked. It worked. Inflation is now in the twos. That's what Donald Trump was handed. And then he started the tariff shit. And this is where we're going with this, folks. Stick with me. We're not done. ET, what would happen if Dems put out legislation that would force them to either count those tankers or to move them out to see which would endanger them? Joe Biden did something similar to that when he first took office with the disaster that was created by Trump. You remember we had COVID. There was energy prices were spiking. Joe Biden actually slapped a fee on them and made it economically unviable for them to do that with those tankers. And they dumped that oil into the terminals and gas prices came down under Biden. That's what brought the gas prices down. That very thing that you're talking about is what brought prices down coming out of COVID. But then, now stick with me, all right? They're trying to keep oil prices up. Oil prices keep continuing to drop. Russia collapses. So they're actively, like I said, going to buy $1 billion worth of oil that we can't do with what they're claiming they want to do with. It's just welfare. It's another $1 billion they're dumping into Venezuela for nothing. They're going to have to turn around and put those contracts back on the market is what they're going to have to do with it. It's just a temporary goose to oil prices, and they're doing it for Russia. They are 100%. But then Trump, who desperately needs his diversion from Epstein and desperately wants to grift, and his con is being interrupted. His takeover of Greenland and all of those rare earth minerals it's all being interrupted because you know what? Europe said, no, I think we'll keep our land. Yeah, I think we'll keep Greenland as part of us. We're okay with that. We're okay with our businesses doing business there. Trump's in full freak out mode about that. So what does he do? The only thing that dumbass knows how to do. I mean, he's demented. He's lost his mind, but he can remember the word tariff. He can remember the word tariff. He does this. He slaps 10% tariffs on Denmark and 7 other European countries, which when I was talking about earlier, he just blew up our EU trade deal. Literally. I mean, the EU has said, okay, trade deal's off. It's over because of this. 10%. And if by June they haven't sold Greenland to us, they're going to increase the tariffs to 25%. What do you think that's going to do to our economy? What do you think that's going to do to our economy? It's going to tank it. Because what's happening right now, folks, the tariffs are finally hitting home. Now you saw them in your groceries pretty much right away. You saw it with coffee. You've seen what's going on with beef. You've seen it at the grocery store. That's different. That's different. That's just a commodity that gets bought and put on the market. Fruits and vegetables are, for the lack of a better way to put it, instantaneous commodities. So you felt that right away. The rest of the pain from tariffs had to filter through the manufacturing process. See, companies take cars, cars. We'll talk about cars as an example. George Allen, thanks, man. I appreciate you, brother. Take cars for an example. It applies to electronics. It applies to mining equipment. It applies to everything. But we'll just use cars as an example. The manufacturing they do with those cars, that's not decided day by day. These companies invest and make decisions on how much to manufacture. It's massive amounts of resources that have to be purchased, downstream parts that have to be manufactured. It's a very long process. So when those tariffs hit, it wasn't like your coffee that doesn't really have to be manufactured in the same way. There aren't tons of steps between the beginning to end product. Those tariffs have filtered through that manufacturing process and are now starting to hit home. They are. You saw the grocery prices right away, and Trump's trying to lie about those, but it's not working. Every economic expert is saying, no, grocery prices are high as hell, and they're going to remain that way. But you're also seeing this. Every economist is screaming. You know how in the airplane, when the airplane is getting ready to crash, they yell, brace, brace, brace. Yeah, that's what they're doing with inflation. Inflation's coming back. Because starting right now is just the beginning of it. It's just the beginning of it. Over the next 6 months, depending on what product you're talking about and how complicated the manufacturing lead times are, those tariffs are now hitting home. They're now on the goods on the shelf. And that's going to tank oil prices. That's going to tank oil prices. So no, I don't believe that Donald Trump invaded Venezuela to get oil. I think it was over minerals because his kid is involved with companies. Junior is on the board of companies that process, buy and process. He's in the rare earths business. His family is profiting off of these rare earth minerals. I think he hit Venezuela twofold reason: not to fix and free their oil, but to control who it's directed to. Because we've talked about in the past, Paul Singer just bought refineries that deal specifically directly with Venezuela. He's going to be getting cheap oil. But in general, they need to keep that oil off the market. And they need control to do it. Because, man, I don't see this. I just don't see. I don't see them succeeding. I think that they're idiots. I think, again, they don't know whether to scratch their watch or wind their ass. I think that they really believed that they were going to get away with these tariffs and it wasn't going to tank the economy, that we were just going to suck it up and it was all going to be fine. And it's just not the case. It's just not. And I've got to warn you right now, you've got to prepare. Your energy bills have gone up. Your grocery bills have gone up. Now, from this point on, your everything, your medical bills have gone up. From this point on, your everything else bills are going up because these tariffs are coming home. They're coming home to roost. M. Zephyr, when tariffs hit manufacturers leave the U.S., i.e. GM moved to Canada. Yeah, this is an economic nightmare. And it just hasn't begun to get bad for Trump yet. It just hasn't. Which is why, folks, I know I seem Pollyannish when I talk about the elections. I know I do. I know I seem Pollyannish about it. But all of these things, I'm watching all of these storms. It's like, super hurricanes. And they're all coming in at the same time from different directions. And they're going to come together and just absolutely decimate the Republicans, because them controlling both Congress and the White House, there's no one to blame. Joe Biden did this shit isn't going to fly anywhere. Linda Orndorff, SCOTUS next ruling date is Tuesday. I would be forever grateful if they rule against Trump on his tariffs, but I won't hold my breath. They have intentionally been delaying that tariff ruling. They have. And the hilarious part about that, if they rule against Trump, it's going to be an economic disaster because Trump's already spent the tariff money. That's some of the reporting that I'm looking into to try to get the details on, because I like to do the details, but the reporting's already coming out. Trump has spent the tariff money. When they rule against him, you're talking immediate overnight economic disaster for our government. He's already spent it. So when they rule against him, he's going to have to pay it back, which is going to further devalue the American dollar, which is going to make it even harder to control inflation. This is a mess, people. This is a mess. But here's the funny thing about it. If they would rule against him now, just do it now, the economy would take off. The economy, it would be like when we came out of COVID, how the economy went nuts. Yes, it's going to cause inflation, but the economy would take off, because the one thing that's just choking it to death are his tariffs. So it's just mind-blowing to look at it. That's a good idea. Stop blaming Brandon. No kidding, man. No kidding. But yeah. And folks, I want to show you again, green energy keeps popping up, how their idiocy and stupidity and Trump just shut down those wind farms. That was the image. That was the narrative. That was the thing that people could wrap their heads around, because you can't really look at how broad of an effect their attack on green energy is and where it hits. That wind farm is an iconic image for people to look at. You have an almost completed wind farm off the East Coast that he shuts down, and it's a great, it's just a good narrative to show how stupid this is. But folks, it is way bigger than that and has way longer repercussions. Stick with me. If you're unaware, Australia has always had huge iron deposits. Western Australia, when you see images of it and you see that red dirt and they have massive iron deposits. Well, they just found out they have more than they thought. They are literally sitting on the largest iron deposits in the world. And of course, iron ore is what we, turn into steel, process into steel and other, alloys. Well, yeah, this just happened. They found out they're literally sitting on the largest iron deposits in the world. And Australian mining companies just have been blowing out. Yeah, in Perth, exactly. Perth have been really just all over this. They have. The fourth largest producer of iron ore is a company called Fortescue, and they're in Perth. They are. They're the largest in this area. They're the fourth largest producer in the world. They're evolving their entire process of mining, because mining and processing this ore is incredibly energy intensive. It is incredibly energy intensive. And what they figured out is renewables, man, if done right, that can really cut your costs in the long term. And it's great for the environment. So Fortescue has been leading the charge to become the world's first green iron ore mining company. The world's first source for a green iron. I don't know the right word to say here. They're just, it's like they're leading their own revolution in this industry. They've turned it on its head, and the math is mathing. Now I want you to think about our government and what they're doing with green energy and how they're fighting it, and how they're 100% going the wrong direction on this, because Republicans absolutely do not want anything to do with green energy, because, hey, that's Democrats. And Democrats said, this is the future, folks. Well, Fortescue's not going to sit and not do this. The maths for them. This is going to be big money, big profits for them if they can convert the amount of energy that they need to process this ore. If they can move to green sources, renewable sources, this is a big money maker on it. And my God, I freaking love you people so much. Gojo, I'm telling you, if you're not watching the chat when you're watching the show, you're missing half the show. You're just missing half the show. So Fortescue does this. They were looking for $500 million in loans to convert over their processes to green energy processes. Everything they use, from catalyzing to everything, they wanted it all to come from green energy. Well, they can't come to America for that because our government actively fights it. So they went to China. And China said, 500 million, that won't get it done. You need 2 billion. That is literally how that went. They were searching, Fortescue was searching for $500 billion in loans to modernize and eventually increase the profit margins of their mining business by going green. And China took a look at it and said, you know what? We've been working on this for a while. Your efforts are going to be good, but you need to do more. I tell you what, we'll loan you $2 billion to do it. And that will get it done. That will get it done. And we'll do it at incredibly low rates. How much influence do you think that buys China in what is now the largest iron ore deposit in the world? We'll put a pin in that. Because when you want to talk about, and I want to describe this so that you understand how this doesn't just affect solar companies or turbine companies or whatever. I want you to see how this big picture has put us 2 decades behind. How stupid this policy is. And Cletus doesn't understand this because all Cletus sees is his pickup truck. They don't want me to have my pickup truck that I don't do anything with. I just jack it up and put lights underneath it because it's cool, man. And they just, let's go roll coal. You know, I mean, Cletus doesn't get any of this. He doesn't understand that green energy is money. And these companies know it. And that's what they're going to do. So I want you to put a pin in that for a second. Let's talk about mining equipment. Now, you want to talk about the best mining equipment in the world and the largest manufacturer of mining equipment? You're talking Caterpillar, baby. You're talking Caterpillar. Yeah, they're number one in the world, and they're number one for a reason. Let me tell you, as somebody that has worked with heavy equipment and worked on heavy equipment, and I am telling you, people, Caterpillar is the best. The best. And they have created buyback programs where if you will follow their maintenance schedules and document it, they'll sell you at a piece of equipment at a certain price, but they will promise you at the end of 5 years, they'll buy it back at a guaranteed price. You know exactly what you're going to spend on a piece of Caterpillar equipment, which is, again, priceless to mining companies to know exactly what your expense is going to be. Plus, you're getting the most reliable equipment in the world. No brainer, right? No brainer, right? Well, you know, Komatsu, which some of it is made right here in East Texas, literally just a few miles from my house as the bird flies. Komatsu has a plant here making big mining equipment. And Komatsu says, you know what? We can compete with Caterpillar because we can build reliable equipment cheaper. You may not have the resale value. It may not be the big program that Caterpillar offers, but your upfront costs will be lower. It will definitely be lower. And Komatsu comes in and they underbid Caterpillar, but Caterpillar's still doing okay. I mean, are you following me here? You're talking about billions and billions of dollars these companies are fighting over. Well, China has XCMG. They're making mining equipment. They are. Xinjiang is the parent company for XCMG. And they're fighting for those contracts too. They are. This is XCMG. They're fighting their ass off for these contracts. And they are even cheaper than Komatsu. Do you see where I'm going with this? When I'm talking about the big picture, do you feel where this is going? Where China's soft diplomacy, where they just stepped in with the fourth largest supplier of iron ore in the world and helped them meet their objectives, gave them low interest loans. Do you see where I'm going with this? Because, folks, this really just happened. Fortescue Green Mile milestone. Fortescue and XCMG signed historic billion-dollar fleet deal. Yeah, that just happened. That just happened. Caterpillar? Nope. Komatsu? Nope. XCMG. They loaned them $2 billion to convert over all of their energy needs to green energy. And Fortescue gave them $1 billion back to buy XCMG mining equipment. Is America going to be leading the charge in the world's largest iron ore mining endeavor? No, we're not. No, we're not. You know why? Because Cletus likes to roll coal, man. Cletus likes to roll coal. That's what it is. He likes to blow that black smoke out his pipes on his pickup truck. Fuck that green energy. You Prius driving pussy. Folks, these people are idiots. The Republicans are idiots. They couldn't big picture their own ass if you gave them a close-up 8x10. They're idiots. And China isn't building fleets of aircraft carriers. China isn't building battleships, Trump battleships. China isn't putting money into that. China is one pinky propping up Russia with oil purchases, and they're going throughout the world, and they're loaning money, man, to everyone. They're loaning money to people so that they can build new power grids, so they can modernize their equipment, so that they can create cleaner industries. Holy shit, they sound like the good guys. Christy, thank you for being here. Right after the election, Texas Paul claimed China would end up the winner right again. Thank you for reminding people of that. Folks, how long do you think it will take to rebuild that relationship? I mean, I try to give you specific examples. How long do you think it will take to rebuild that relationship? Well, you're talking about minimum the life cycle of the equipment that they just bought. Minimum. Your first crack is over the life cycle of all that mining equipment, that $1 billion worth of mining equipment they just bought. In the meantime, China is doing an amazing job. China is all in on renewables. China has got the cost of their solar down so cheap that they're selling it all over Asia. It's making its way into Western economies, even though we're being protectionist. Look at what's going on in Canada. Canada's brokered a deal to let BYD sell their cars in Canada. Folks, I'm just telling you, we don't have time for this. We don't have time for this over the next couple years. Everything that these Republicans stand for is just the death of our nation. Cape Marylight, solar farm off Massachusetts coast, 80% complete. Trump canceled the funding. Yeah, that's one. I mean, that is the narrative, man. That is the one that, it sticks. It sticks. Man, I don't know where you're getting that from. Josh, I would go take a look at what they're building. BYD is building luxury SUVs that make Land Rovers look like shit. China is not what it once was. It's not. They're not just building cheap shit to get into the market. They're building some incredible stuff. Hell, I've gotten into woodworking, and China's like, we're done with this Harbor Freight shit. We are. That's not us. We're not the ones building the shit on purpose. We're building what your people, your importers are telling us to build, and we're not doing it anymore. Laguna has a great name. It's an Italian company that has a great name in woodworking equipment. It's considered a premium brand. China just made a lot of noise kicking Laguna out of their factory. They said, you take our same stuff that we build for you that's considered a premium product, and you put your Italian name on it when it's built right here. So you know what we're going to do? From now on, we're going to put a Chinese brand on it. But they picked an American name. They're smart. Harvey tools are Chinese made. They're exactly what you've been buying from all the premium brands made out of the same damn factory. But China said, fuck this. We're putting our own shit out. I'm telling you, things are changing with China, and we did not have the time to waste. We are going to be so far behind the 8 ball on this. And Caterpillar, companies like Caterpillar are going to pay the price. ET, in some cases, never. Some would require removing Republicans for good. Some would require amendments to the Constitution before they will trust us. Yeah, we've got a lot of work to do. We really do. So what I'm telling you, the reason I'm saying that is, and don't take my word for it. Here, look, let me show you this. Let me just pull it up. That's not just me just blowing smoke. Let me show you their webpage. Harvey's made a huge splash. All of this equipment used to bear other people's premium names on it. This used to be like a $5,000 air purification system, a centrifugal air purification system. Now Harvey sells it for $2,000 under their brand. The Alpha, this is identical to what you're seeing out of several companies' cabinet saws. It's identical, but now they're selling it under the Harvey brand. They're not selling it. They've stopped making it for other brands, and they're selling it under their own brand. And it has, do you see this red knob up top here and these red knobs on the side of the fence? It actually has the most advanced fence system of any cabinet saw out there. China's no joke right now. They really are not. They are serious. They are 100% serious. They're not going to be known as the place that makes cheap shit anymore. They're really tired of manufacturing your iPhones and everybody believing, oh, Apple is the best, but China sucks. Huawei is shit. And China's really tired of saying, we made your fucking Apple phone. We don't suck. We're really good at this. And they're making moves globally. George Allen, I wish we could get Chinese electric cars, man. You know, here's the thing. I've said that before, and I'm a union guy. I'm a union supporter. And I got so many nasty gram emails out of people saying, how can you say you're union, but you want to let that Chinese trash in here? And man, it really is. You be protectionist and protect the companies that where unions have organized here in the United States, or you let in what's arguably the best on the market, the best in the world. You know, which one do you want? It's complicated, folks. It's complicated. We all do better. I love that name. I love that name. BYDs look like sweet cars. I drive an electric, and I don't miss waiting in gas lines. I plug in and I am done. I also done missing oil changes. Yeah. Look. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You can't get this here. You can't buy this here, but you can buy it all over the world. Canadians are about to be able to buy these. Let me see if I can find specifically which one I'm looking for. Let me see if I can buy the. No audio. Don't do that. Let me see if I can find another website for it. SUV. This is not marketed at you and me. This vehicle is not marketed at you and me. There you can take a look at it. Go look it up. But again, this is not marketed at you and me. This is the Yangwang U8. It is technologically light years ahead of everything else that's on the market. It's crushing Mercedes. It's crushing. This thing can turn in place 180 degrees, can sit in place and turn. It is four-wheel independent steering. And that's before you start talking about the electronics inside it. But this is not marketed towards you and me. You'll never touch one of these things. This is like $180,000 SUV. So no, and my point in showing it is that no, they're not building trash. They're done with that. They're done with that. They're not doing it anymore. And I have to tell you, when I was in Panama, I was shocked at the number of Geelys and BYDs that were all over the road down there. DK, we need to vote Republicans out of office. Start this week, early voting January 21st to 27th for Texas SD9 for Democrat Taylor Emmett. Election day, January 31st. We've got special elections coming up. We've got, folks, it's not just this, and this is what I want to sum it up with. It's not just this ICE stuff. It's not just that they want to be fascists here at home. It's not just that they don't give a shit about you. It's not just that they bend over for the corporations, and our corporations are very short-sighted. They are. They're very short-sighted. It's bigoted old white dudes that run these corporations, and it's a problem. This fighting green energy instead of embracing it and leading the world in it. I mean, it's just one bad decision after another is ceding everything to China. You know, I speculated after the election, is this going to be a European century or is this going to be a Chinese century? And I will tell you, with the fascists like Maloney dragging them down and just the old schoolers. It looks like Chinese taking the edge, man. It is. It looks like China's taking the edge. And it's scary. It is scary because they don't hold the same values that we do. They really don't. I mean, ask some of these countries that have gotten into bed with China do deeply regret it. You know, we've seen them just bullying nations, just having Chinese secret police showing up at the airport, snatching people, putting them on Chinese jets and flying off. That's part of what comes with dealing with China. So don't think I'm sitting here preaching, ooh, China good. No, they've got very different values than we do. You know, there's still a big part of this country that believes in democracy and the Constitution. You know, we Democrats are out there fighting every day. There are people standing in 9-degree weather with wind chills that are like sub 20 degrees, standing out there fighting for our Constitution against fascism. You know, we still hold those values. China does not. China's people look at it like this. You know, somebody asked me the other day, here's the problem. You're talking about ideals. And they asked me directly, be honest, if China took over the United States tomorrow, how would that change your life? How much would that affect your life day to day? And the truth is, not much. Not much. There would be some online rule changes and so, but the day to day, the electricity, the lights would still come on when you flick the electric switch, when you flick your light switch. The grocery stores would still be open. Just your day to day shit. It really doesn't matter who's running that much, as long as they're competent. And it wouldn't matter if it was a monarchy or fascism or whatever. Your day-to-day life doesn't change much unless you're the victim that they decide is the bad guy at the time. Then it really changes it a lot. These ideals that we have about freedom, yeah, you've really got to care about freedom. You really have to care about freedom. Because most people are not like you. They just want those lights to come on. They want to be able to go to the hospital without being bankrupted. They just want their day-to-day bills to be manageable. And they don't care who does it. I mean, this is a dangerous fight, folks. You're talking about literally losing to the world the argument that freedom and democracy and self-determination and all of that is important. Hell, look at Italy. They elected an out-and-out self-proclaimed fascist. George Allen, remember when they were cutting down Japanese cars? Man, were they wrong. You know, I remember the old Toyota Corollas and the little Honda Civics, and I remember them, man. Sherry Purpura, is an electric car expensive in regards to the price of electricity needed to gas? Yeah, it is. It's going to get worse here in the United States. They're changing the math on that because electric bills are going up and up and up. And on that note, I want to wrap it up with this. I was at a forum yesterday in Corsicana, Texas. It was candidates meeting people. And Corsicana, the reason you've never heard of Corsicana is it's a small place. It's not a big city. It's not. But it's important here in Texas because that county is one of the few counties in the last election that actually became more blue. And you had politicians. You had Bobby Cole down there who's running for governor. You had Clayton Tucker that's running for ag commissioner. You had Vicki Goodwin that's running for lieutenant governor. All sitting there just talking to people. What do you think the people were talking about? With everything that you're paying attention, you're plugged in people, you're plugged into social media, you're plugged into, what do you think the people that were there were talking about? Number one. Yep. That was the number one thing I heard. Electric bills. It wasn't immigration. It wasn't ICE. Sure as fuck wasn't Greenland. It was electric bills. Yeah. We need to remember. Yeah. Collins Street Bakery. Some of the best fruitcakes in the world, man. Corsicana, Texas. We need to remember, I warn you of this all the time, and I apologize for this over and over again. During the last election, I did it myself. I totally forgot that we're not just talking to each other. We're talking to people that are not plugged into politics at all. But you know what else shocked me? When they started talking electric bills, I started going in to do my job to let everybody know, hey, that's the Republicans' fault. Those data centers are a problem. And I wanted to talk about that. What's going on with oil and why that's driving up your electric bills. I didn't have to say shit. That was the really shocking part. Crafty Ash Gardner, hoping you can talk about Dems running in primaries for top positions in Texas. Is there a possibility that Hinojosa's dad was purposely holding back Texas Dems before Scudder stepped up, compromised? There's a lot of local Texas stuff going on there, man, to unpack. There really is. Karen 007, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show. Jordan Miller, side note, my morning coffee tastes a lot better drinking from a fuck truck. Fuck ice cup, Texas ball coffee mug. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Sounds great, Paul. Let's all go local and safe blue states to George Island. Yeah. And I just want to wrap this up. I didn't have to tell anybody shit. They already had cemented in their heads when they bitched about their electric bills. The overwhelming thing that I heard was data centers did this, that Republicans didn't do their jobs. They wanted to cut taxes for Johnny Got Rocks, so they didn't build up the infrastructure. So now data centers are sucking up all the electricity and driving up our rates. I didn't have to tell anybody that. Nobody. They walked into the Martin Luther King Community Center knowing that shit. I got to tell you, this is a very, very, very different election. Very different. We just need to remember that we're not just talking to us. Right now, if you go to social media, it's all ICE, all ICE, all ICE. And that is important. It is important. But it is not what everybody that was a voter in Corsicana, Texas, told me was important. They told me it was their electric bill. And we have to remember that. We have to listen this time. Paul, what are we going to do when ICE shows up at the polls and is preventing people from voting? Do you have any proof at all that that is going to happen? Any, just to start with. I'm no smoke, man. I'm not doing any smoke. No smoke at you at all. But there's no, they haven't been, we have won election after election after election. There have been elections going on every week, Joseph, every week. And ICE hasn't been at a single poll. Not one. Not one. Now, we have seen the way they've tried to cheat with voter registrations and things like that. That for true. And again, I am not sending any smoke your way when I say this at all, because you're not the only person that said something like that. Show me anywhere where that's happened. It just hasn't. We need to stop worrying and hand wringing, and we need to worry about getting people to the polls, not telling people, "Ooh, be afraid you're not going to be able." That's voter suppression, man. That's voter suppression. We need to get people to the polls. We need to get people's. Go look at your electric bill, man. The Republicans did that. The Republicans did that. That needs to be our focus. That's where I'm going with that, man. Thank you for the comment. Linda Orndorff, registered for training with my local Democratic Party to become a precinct committee person. Thank you. And I want to shout out to all of the people at the Martin Luther King Community Center. For y'all did an incredible job. Thank you. I appreciate that. All the local precinct chairs in the county, y'all did amazing. I know y'all did all the work. Y'all did all the work. And I want to thank you. I was so heartened to see there were cars parked for blocks around, man, parked in the streets everywhere. It was so heartening to see. Kitchen table issues matter. Yep. And I'm telling you, folks, I'm really telling you, Joseph, we're very keyed into what's going on with ICE, and that is important. That is important. What I'm putting the alarm bells out, and why I'm saying this is what I learned, because I went in there expecting to hear about immigration, expecting to hear about ICE and fascism and all the shit that the Trump. I didn't hear that. I didn't. I heard kitchen table issues. And they weren't, and I will tell you this is something that actually scared me also until I spent some time listening to them. That crowd was somber. Normally you go to these events, people are fired up, man. Fired up. And I do my cheerleading. I'm the loudest one yelling when somebody makes a good comment, and I clap really freaking loud, and you get the crowd motivated. That crowd was somber, but they were not defeated. They were pissed. Joseph, all right. Just want to be prepared. I hear you, brother. I hear you. And again, I was not sending you smoke when I said that. I'm just telling you, let's quit saying things and worrying about things that we don't have to worry about that might suppress the vote. That's all I'm saying. Let's quit saying, oh, they're not going to let us vote. I'm not asking. I'm voting. Well, folks, that's what I have for you today. Thank you for being here. I hope it's been useful. I really do. I hope you've gotten a little bit of a bigger picture out of this about why the green energy is important. The chaos in the Trump campaign between, we're going to slap some more tariffs on Europe. We're blowing up the European trade deal. That's going to sink the economy and drive oil prices down. Meanwhile, they're taking your money and buying $1 billion worth of Venezuelan oil to prop up oil prices to try to keep their buddy Vladdy from collapsing. Because I will tell you what they're really afraid of, that's a domino. That when Russia collapses, that it dominoes, because the economy is just not in that great of shape. It's the world economy's not in that great of shape. And I hate the fact that these idiots are the ones making the calls here in the United States. I really do. I appreciate you. Hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button. If you're not already a subscriber, consider becoming a member. On that note, enjoy some Texas cities at night.